Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 1940s Dialogue. In evenings past, we have undertaken a 5-part exploration presented in the manner of a cinematic essay, an earnest attempt to illuminate a subject with the depth and deliberation it so richly deserved. Tonight, however, we turn our attention to a new endeavour, one not merely informative but conversational, a dialogue in the spirit of the 1940s, reflecting both the speech and sensibilities of that solemn and singular age. If you are prepared to accompany us on this brief excursion into a more refined age, then I bid you sit comfortably, still your modern distractions and lend your ear. And so, without further delay, I shall begin with the following inquiry. There is a matter which has lately occupied my thoughts. If I may, I should very much like to address a line of thought that now beckons renewed consideration in these turbulent times. Pray, do you hold the view that language, in its present and oft untempered form, might strike the sensibilities of those attuned to a more decorous and genteel epoch as coarse, irreverent, or otherwise wanting in propriety? Did I should think it manifestly evident that language in its present and oftentimes unbridled expression may strike the refined ear inconstant to the decorum and measured cadence of a more civil epoch, as crass, intemperate, and unbecoming. The erosion of elocutionary grace, coupled with an alarming levity of tone in matters once regarded with gravity, renders much modern discourse ill-suited to the drawing room or the lecture hall. One is, of course, ever mindful of the evolutionary nature of language. Yet when once noble words are supplanted by vulgarities and the dignity of dialogue gives way to jocular flippancy, it does seem, if I may be so bold, that a certain spectral lamentation from the parlours of yesteryear would not be unwarranted. In light of such lamentable decline, one cannot help but observe the modern tongue as it finds expression upon the various public platforms of our day, those so-called forums, wherein discourse, if it may still be called such, has become at once strident and impoverished. Which has got me asking, would you, sir, not agree that the prevailing modes of expression in the year 2025, most especially those of a vitriolic nature, as so regrettably displayed upon the platform now styled X, reveal a most troubling degeneration of public discourse, where once rhetoric aspired to clarity, civility, and moral weight, we now behold a torrent of untempered utterance, loud in tone, poor in substance, and frequently devoid of the very dignity once presumed requisite for the exchange of ideas in any enlightened society. So frequent is the resort to insult, so shallow the argument, and so frenzied the tone, that one might, with neither exaggeration nor malice, observe simply, it smack of much ado about nothing. Most assuredly I do. In observing the tenor of contemporary discourse, particularly as it manifests upon the platform now called X, erstwhile known as Twitter, one cannot help but conclude that the venerable phrase, "It smacks of much ado about nothing," retains, nay, has perhaps regained applicability. The vitriol to which you refer, so often couched in shrill tones and delivered with an abandon unbecoming of civil exchange, frequently elevates trifles to the stature of crisis and casts every opinion not in harmony as cause for outcry. It is a theatre of passions untethered from proportion, and of rhetoric loosed from reason. Moreover, good fellow, the descent into vulgarity, so common as to be nearly banal, strikes the ear, or rather the eye, as betrayal of the dignity once accorded to public dialogue. What was once whispered behind closed doors is now bellowed into the void, clothed in language that would have summoned in an earlier day a discreet cough or the drawing of a curtain. In such an age, the phrase in question does not merely apply, it resounds. For what are many of these verbal conflagrations, if not tempestuous noise surrounding matters of no enduring import? Yes, I dare say the ghosts of more measured times would regard the spectacle with both sorrow and bemusement, murmuring, "Much ado indeed about precious little." Though it stands as a most revealing reflection of our current moral and intellectual condition, would you not concur? Indeed. Yes, I do think so, and most emphatically. The discourse to which you refer, coarse in tone and fevered in temperament, serves as a most revealing mirror held up to the moral and intellectual atmosphere of our present age. It reflects not merely isolated excesses, but rather a broader unravelling of restraint, discernment, and that once cherished faculty, thoughtful deliberation. Where once civility served as the scaffolding of public exchange, we now observe a cavalcade of noise, urgent, untempered, and oftentimes bereft of substance. The very manner in which language is employed has become, if I may speak plainly, both a symptom and a signal. A symptom of cultural fatigue, and a signal that the pillars of reasoned debate and moral clarity are weathered, if not crumbling. Thus, yes, what we behold in such expressions is no mere passing fashion, but a telling indicator of the spiritual and intellectual condition in which civilization presently finds itself. The mirror, alas, does not flatter. Grade and Schule, thinking about how we can resolve these turbulent times. There is of late a matter which has taken firm residence in my contemplations. I find myself increasingly drawn to the notion that a global embrace of civility in discourse might well herald a profound transformation in the tenor of our collective existence. Should mankind choose to engage his fellow with kindness and due regard, rather than with rancour, derision, and that most corrosive element, vitriol, might we not witness a fortification of the very fabric that binds our communal life. For it occurs to me quietly yet persistently that the manner in which we address one another may well conceal within it the remedy for many of the afflictions that beset our troubled world. Words, after all, are the emissaries of thought and intention, and when they are tempered by grace, they may yet build bridges where once there were chasms.